Imagine you living in a small place like Petrolia, a very small place, and you've been occupied for 4 or 5 years, and your Jewish friends have been sent off and they've been killed. Your teachers have been replaced. Your books have been replaced. There, you can't listen to the radio. Only certain movies you can see. And then they start to take your food away. And then if people resist, you see summary executions in the street as a warning. And then all of a sudden, your family's starving, and your baby sister is dying in your arms. And across the fields come soldiers. They happen to be Canadian soldiers. And they fight in your gardens. They fight in your streets. They fight in your house. And you watch them die for you. Then they liberate you. And then after, they just go home. How could you not be grateful?
Basically, the trip was a liberation tour to celebrate and remember what we did over there back in World War II when we liberated Holland.
They love Canadians. I didn't understand. Everyone told us it's going to be an experience. It's an experience of a lifetime. The Dutch people, love Canadians. I never really fully understood it until obviously we were there and see the participation.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have had peace now in the Netherlands for 70 years. Often this freedom is taken for granted, wrongfully so. Freedom sometimes only comes at the cost of human sacrifice. It is very important that we keep the memories of World War II alive.
Being in Canada, we didn't have much of really of any war here. We had our guys go over, but they lived it. Their grandfathers and their forefathers, they were there and they passed those stories down to their kids and then their grandkids, obviously. So I think it's difficult for us to appreciate it as much, but when we go there, it's that's what they lived in and they saw firsthand.
when the war started and the Germans came over and they bombed the city, and the whole, the downtown of the city was really ruined, and all the buildings, they were gone. And Mom, she went to see her sister who used to live downtown, see if they were still alive. And when she came back, she smelled like with burning wood and everything, and I still can remember that smell.
The sad thing about Holland was that it was overrun within 7 days. So the Germans entered the Netherlands, and then within 7 days it was over. We capitulated, we surrendered, and then 2 hours after our surrender, they bombed Rotterdam. So they completely cleared the city. Thousands of people died, and their excuse was that the planes were already in the air.
My dad was not home. Just before the war started, he had to go away. And so we didn't see him for 6 years.
They felt the brunt of it, and it was very hard for them. So when they got liberated by the Canadians, it was a big deal because freedom again, like this is probably something they maybe thought they never were going to have again. In Canada, we didn't experience as much besides soldiers going to war. Nobody saw the carnage and stuff that the people in Holland and the rest of Europe had to live through.
Towards the end of the war, the Allies were through France. France was fully liberated, and Germany, the Germans knew the war was over, and yet they refused to surrender. They refused to pull out of Holland, and they largely used the Netherlands to hold the Dutch people hostage in order to get some leverage with the Allies. And they flooded a lot of the areas, which is one of the reasons why there were food shortages, but they also took food away from the people. And in the areas that had been liberated, this wasn't so much of a problem, but the areas that weren't liberated in the north and in the west, the people were starving. And there were a lot of bad feelings about the occupiers at that point.
We were hungry too. We tried tulip bulbs and all that kind of things for eating. We didn't have any coal. There was no gas. It was all rationed, and you couldn't, it was just for a certain time of the day that you got to get the gas.
People from the south are coming, and from the west are coming for food and so, and we living on a farm, we could share food.
Yeah, but people came on their bicycles all the way from the west here to get food. And then finally they got food, they went back, and sometimes they were kept up by the Germans and they stole their food again, so they had to go back, And so to get food, sometimes they were for a week, from the west all the way here and then back. Yeah, that was even worse, yeah. And there were also a lot of Jewish people, of course, here,
A lot.
They needed a hiding place, yeah. Sometimes we go to a farm that was a hiding place during the war. There were more than 25 people on that farm. Yeah, it was very dangerous, of course. We had a lot of razzias, they call that, when the Germans came in. And at the end, the owner was traded by a fellow farmer. And they had a paper, it says they have, people that hiding there. And then the Gestapo came and they took them all away. But they were lucky that they only burned down the farm. But there was nothing left anymore. So they had to live for 5 months in a chicken barn just beside the farm.
There was a couple who was living below my aunt and uncle. And we knew them very well. And they were very nice people, and they got picked up by the Germans and they never came back. So that's a very hard thing.
There was a teacher, and we were singing a song who was forbidden. And then 2 days or 3 days later, Germans came in with their guns and so on. So it was very quiet in the class. And they took the teacher with them. And so we were waiting and waiting. You was thinking, who of the class has informed the Germans? There must be someone you can't trust. And that is very difficult during wartime, that you don't know who is your friend.
I don't think that they really realized what Canada was and Canadians until we presented ourselves at their doorfront. And being that the Dutch suffered tremendously under the Nazis, they were very, very happy to see us there. Even more deliriously happy than they were in Paris.
The Canadians, they came. The soldiers, they had big trucks and they brought in all kinds of cookies. And I know my mom, she was so hungry. And she kept on eating and eating and eating. And so once in a while, we got a cookie. But no, it was really a very emotional time for all of us. Yeah.
They were kids that time.
Yeah.
And they came in. And finally, they got chocolate and cigarettes and oranges, and they were so...
my mom thought that the orange was a tennis ball.
Yeah.
Because she didn't know whether it was an orange, that's, it's unbelievable,
Yeah.
And they always said to us, always remember them. Yeah, because the freedom we have today, we owe that to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important.
My very first event that I sat back and I said, "Wow, this is real." It was the in Holland Cemetery, the Canadian war cemetery there, and it was all Canadians, and every single tombstone had someone around my age or younger, and had if they had kids or not kids, or they were married, or they were just someone's brother or someone's son that came over here and left their home and never made it back.
Eris asked me to find Trooper Bridges for him. And I said, "Who's Trooper Bridges? He's not a first Hussar." No, he's not. I trained with him. He's a Sherbrooke Hussar. I said, "Okay, let's go find him." And so we found him, and Trooper Bridges was 21 years old, and he was one of Eris's best friends in training. So what happened was on April 13th, Trooper Bridges was killed about 3 weeks before the end of the war. And he went back there to find Trooper Bridges, and he saluted him. So we marked his grave with a Hussar flag and a Hussar battle honors, and we all saluted too, because it was his friend.
A lot of what we do in terms of the events, the D-Day commemoration, the Remembrance Day, they're very solemn occasions that we take seriously. And they're there to support each other and to give proper respect and consideration to what the serving members have done and will be asked to do.
These 90-year-old vets now are at the end, and they're passing these stories on. And these young guys are the last crossover, they're the last link, and they will hear the stories. Much like I had known some of the guys from the First World War. These guys will have known the last guys from the Second World War. And that bond that we have in the First Hussars, a family, we were all in it together, and we honored them. And that's what we do. We take care of each other, we take care of our vets, and we take care of the young soldiers.
It was an amazing experience traveling with veterans. It's going to be one of their last times over there, so to be there with them on the 70th anniversary was amazing and a moment that I'll never forget.
They call me the mother of the regiment, of all things. Well, the Sarnia group does anyway. I don't know about the rest, but Marshall always said, when you belong to a regiment, and I know this from my time back in the UK when I was in there for 5 years, a regiment is your family, and they look after you.
I really had no idea what it was going to be like being over here, and like we'll say, open up a new world to me.
John just lit up like a Christmas tree. And Eris smiled. He couldn't stop smiling. I saw him on film, and he is saluting, and he's going past the prime minister, and he's got this huge grin on his face. And John just couldn't stop talking about it. He just talked about the kids. He said he had so many flowers thrown in his truck. It was up to his knees, apparently.
Everybody was just clapping and shouting, and they were happy. They can't say thank you enough in Holland.
We saw a grandstand of people sitting up there waiting for us to come by. And I thought, my goodness.
I sometimes had to fight to get up to reach my hand there. And one little fella, he was shy, and he backed away and his dad was, I guess his dad was trying to push him up to give him closer, and finally he came up. I took his hand, almost surprised him
all these people are eager to keep that remembrance alive. They gave their life for our freedom. So that's a very strong feeling here in the Netherlands. Well, you can see that, you observe that, and we are proud to do this. We are honored to do this for our Canadian comrades.
There was all these people, and they just march down, well, they don't march, they just wander down the streets in mass and come round to the square where the monument is and everything, and they place flowers and everything else. There was a choir singing, some hymns. Of course, they played O Canada and the Holland national anthem.
It's pretty impressive when you think the whole country stops, just absolutely stops, and it silently marches to their cenotaph, to the monuments, and they think of the suffering of their people and the liberators, and that was very, very impressive. And I think that stays with me just as much as those big ceremonies in Holland. In some ways, it's more personal.
Children here have gone through so much compared to our home back in Canada, they haven't had an inkling of what it's like to be in the wartime and all that. So I think myself that it must be great for parents to see their children coming up and realizing what took place.
We always went to the local schools to tell the youngsters what happened and that we have to pass it on. They know that the freedom is coming out of the losses and the sadness. So they realize very well what it means to be in wartime and the sadness and all the losses.
From what I understand, for example, in Holton, each student is given a grave, a tombstone, and that's their soldier, and they look after him.
They were young as we are young. They served, giving freely of themselves. To them, we pledge, amid the winds of time, to carry their torch and never forget. We will remember them.
What they do here is very good. They're very appreciated. As far as they're concerned, Canada gave them their freedom. And that's what it's all about.